A warm welcome back to the Information Security Stack, together with me, Daniel Gustafsson, and Kim Hindart.
Host hubba.
Kim has been dealing with a seriously manly cough and a manly cold for the last couple of weeks, and yeah, it's been bad. But now you start to look like yourself again, so it's pleasant to have you back, mate. Anyways, today, first and foremost, I'm going to give you the floor a little bit. See what I mean? That's what I've been dealing with for the last couple of weeks, trying to have any type of conversations with him. All right, anyways, what has happened is this. What does a supplier of IT services that is located and owned, which is the important bit, by an American company, or owned by an American institution, or is American based and have American owners, what does they have to do in order to comply with European data laws? And are we doing enough? The floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, let's say a really hypothetical company, totally taken out of the blue, but let's invent a company called Muffins. Muffins provide IT services, cloud-based, and Muffin is one of the 5th largest companies in the world globally. Muffins has made a good marketing offensive where they promise and declare that I do declare that now it's totally safe for all EU organizations, EU companies, and EU institutions to use Muffins services, because Muffins ensures that all administrators managing the data from the European data centers will be European-based. This is a great thing, actually. This is exactly one of the things that you need to do to ensure GDPR compliance in an easier manner, because it is a transfer to a third country. If your administrator, for instance, sits in Pakistan and process data, it doesn't matter where the data is actually stored. The transfer has occurred to Pakistan if there's an administrator there that processes data, because it's the origin of the processing. That's the interesting part, if there is a transfer or not. So I mean, if you can read and copy data to another country, it's that country that you have the possibility of transfers. If you have access, that's the important part. So by limiting this to, if you are store data in a European data center, and of course pay the extra fee you have on top of this, then you get administrators that only administrate and process your data that are within Europe. This is a great thing that you need to do, for instance, if you're a global company and still want to comply with GDPR. You might have HR systems. Then you need to limit the access. You can still have the same system for your global company, but you still need to limit access to Europeans are processed by European administrators. North Americans are processed by North American administrators. This is a natural part of GDPR. So what they've done is something they should have done since 1996 when the first directive came. This was still a rule then, and is still a rule now. So they fixed something 25 years later. So they worth an applaud. The problem with this is they focus now, tend to fix one thing. So I try to compare. If Muffin had made airplanes, they would have fixed one of several things that made the airplane crash and everyone die, and say, now it's perfectly safe to fly with us, to fly with our airplanes because we fixed this thing. And then made a lot of marketing hullabaloo. And now we fixed this thing. Yeah, but you have still several other things that makes you crash and burn. And this is the problem. Because one of the biggest problems that no agreement, no type of anything to organizations can sign with each other and agree upon can change. And that's the rule of law. I mean, if you and I were to make an agreement with each other, we can be totally in sync and totally in full agreement and then sign a paper together. But if that violates Swedish law, we're still overruled by Swedish law. So no organization can sign an agreement that's in conflict with the national legal system. That's just the fact of it. And this is the problem with GDPR and the Schrems opinion from the European Court of Justice.
The ruling,
Where with that ruling is that it's the US legal system that needs to change. They have a problem with the FISA laws. And that's understandable. They even feel that FISA laws break human rights. And this is a difference of opinion. The EU feels that digital integrity is a human right. Spoiler, I tend to agree with them that in a hyper-digital society we're moving into, it has to be a human right. It has to be handled as a human right. That's just, but the US does not feel that same way. They never felt that same way. So this is a big difference of opinion in a philosophical manner, actually. And I can fully understand the United States with their foreign intelligence surveillance laws. I mean, the US has been actually attacked pretty much. So they have a reason for these laws also. So it's not, just how bad you are in the United States.
No, we completely understand why. I would do the same thing.
But here's the big international conflict between EU regulations and US regulations. And there's no easy solution in place. Now, this company Muffins, they tend to brag about, we are doing everything we legally can to protect your data. And yes, they do actually. They are a lot better than other hyperscalers. That has to be given and that has to be said. Because first off, they're transparent that they're a part of FISA. We have a big bookstore that says we are not part of FISA. No, that's called Pants on Fire, dear friends. You're a huge IT supplier. Of course you're part of FISA. I mean, no. Just no. All major US companies has a global presence. Sorry to say, you're probably part of FISA. That's just the way of it. So, I mean, they do actually say it. So, I mean, that's the issue. But this is a major issue why things will crash with the GDPR. And that's nothing that poor Muffins can do to change that, except there are a few things.
All right, so let's go through that list. What could they actually do on top of the things that they do? So hypothetically, what could they do in order to do more than what they are currently doing?
FISA can be overturned by a single majority of Congress.
Right. It's a political decision.
They could do lobbying. You could ask, how much money do you put into political lobbying? In total, a federal election, all in total, including presidents and everything, cost around $6 billion US.
Yeah.
Muffins has far more cash on hand than that. And they wouldn't need to invest nearly all $6 million US. That's all in total. They could invest $2 billion US and then win over a majority for overturning FISA. And the FISA would then be gone, and the complaints from the EU would be gone. That's one thing. A second thing is, of course, the owners. These are hyper billionaires.
Mm.
These are one of the richest people we have on Earth.
Mm.
The owners of Muffin can easily relocate to Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would become Europeans and be out of touch of FISA.
Right.
That would easily solve it. Of course, they might take a penalty in the North American market. And this is just a market decision. Which market is more valuable to them, the US market or the European market? And that's pretty clear. The US market has more money for them.
Oh, for sure. So, Asian and the US market are way bigger than Europe will ever be.
And this is also something, and that's something we shouldn't forget. The founders of these companies, they are American. I mean, they are US, so we shouldn't blame them for that. I mean,
no, these American companies are founded by Americans, and they want to stay Americans, just as we live in Sweden and we want to remain Swedish.
So, if a European company wants to compete, please, Europe, start your own company.
Yes, because that is the actual solution to this problem.
Yes, start your own company in Europe and fix it. So anyway, but that's one thing they can do. This, the other things they can do is, of course, they can set up data trustee models where they provide the services, but someone else owns the infrastructure to run the services and actually manages this. And that's a fully European entity.
And we have seen American companies do that.
Yeah.
Or at least tried.
Yes. Muffins actually tried this before as well. So, I mean, this has been done. So this is actually something, but this is also a business decision. And lastly, you could provide your software as a license for people to install in their own infrastructure.
You mean an on-premise solution?
Have you heard? That has worked for 25 years.
Mm-hmm. So
I can fully
Why aren't they doing that then? Why isn't an on-premise solution the solution here?
If you were to understand licensing before from these big companies that provided on-prem solutions, you would have to have a doctoral degree to perfectly understand that. And even then you wouldn't understand all the licensing. So the chance that anyone got properly paid what they should have been paid was zero.
There is a massive, I don't want to call it black market, but mishandling of licenses going on.
Yes.
And all the companies, to your point, that should be paid for the product they have produced and sold are not getting paid nearly enough based on their licenses. So that's the drawback of an on-premise solution or license model.
Yes.
But it would fix the actual problem we're dealing with here.
It would exactly fix every European problem we are dealing with, but still. So, I mean, you shouldn't say it's just a legal problem. It's also a business decision, partly, on part of them, that they have business strategically limited their offering. So, I mean, they can fix this. So there are solutions out there. But it's a business decision partly on their end that they don't provide and they offer this. So this is also, but this is when the world goes insane, because wherever have you ever heard of the customer are responsible for making a data protection impact assessment and making this analytics about, is the data properly protected? Are the safeguards enough? Where is the data transferred to a third country? And you leave that to the end customer. If I go buy a car, should I bring my own engineers to review that the car is legally safe to drive in Sweden? Should I ask the vendor, are there seatbelts installed? No, seatbelts cost extra, obviously. Aha, okay. I need a car with seatbelts because seatbelts is the law in Sweden. Yeah, but laws are open for interpretation. You wouldn't hear that from a car vendor.
You just
When
wouldn't.
you go and buy a car, it's not your responsibility that the car is legal to drive in that country. It's the supplier's responsibility to ensure that the car is legal to drive in that country.
Yes. The system actually works.
This is so totally insane. This is so totally insane in the IT world, so it's crazy. No, it's you, the customer, that needs to ensure that when I sell you a car, it's legal to drive in your car. What?
Yes. Where did we end up in this state? Because this is the really properly sad thing about this whole discussion. And quite frankly, I'm gonna say this is the last time we will talk about this in Stack or the information stack in the future. In this podcast, because it's gone so haywire and so out of the realm of possible understanding how we actually ended up in a situation. We are, to your point, in a situation currently where we have to choose between either or. Because we have a law in the US, we have a law in Europe, we have a law in Asia, we have a bunch of laws around the world that are not correlating at all on how to transfer data, on how to protect data, what is personal data, what are the obligations for the providers, what should be bare minimum expectations for me as a consumer. It differs depending on which region of the world you're currently purchasing services from or where you live. So that's the first fundamental problem, which goes completely against the grain in terms of IT services who wants to be global. Can't be global because we have ended up in a market, to your point, where the customer has to make sure that the service that they purchase is legal. What in God's name have we created here, folks? Literally, what have we created here? It should be the supplier who should make sure or will make sure the product that they sell is legal in the market in which they sell it. Period. You don't go to a BMW dealership or even a Ford dealership or a Kia dealership and ask them, have you installed brakes? Well, in some countries they do, but no, it doesn't fit our business model to have brakes on our car. But you need to be able to brake the car and slow down the speed. Well, not part of our business it's not part of our business proposition. It's not part of our business model. That's where we are at currently with the IT industry in the world that we stand today. And also, here's a second side note, EU and Europe. We have the problem. It's not the US who has the problem. It's us in Europe. It's not the Asians who has the problem. It's us in Europe. Because of one simple reason. We have stopped producing services in the IT industry. Period. We have given up on the idea of us producing, creating, manufacturing, selling IT services. We have become fat and lazy, and we depend on American services, on Asian hardware, and in between we have now ended up in a conundrum. Oh my God, what are we going to do? Because we have a law which is in total favor of you as as a citizen in Europe. The GDPR law and all the European laws are actually in favor of us, which is not the norm in the rest of the world. It's in favor of the citizen in Europe. But we can't use it to our benefit because we don't have any IT systems to use it on. And that's our fault, EU and Europe. Wake up!
When in Europe did we start to end up this complacent, actually, this lazy? We went mentally fat.
Yes. 25 years ago, we just gave up. Or 30 years ago, whenever we decided that, whichever platform we decided to go on, we stopped producing things.
We just left it to the United States to produce software.
Yeah. Or we sold
We
it to China,
totally-
we sold it to India,
Yeah.
or we sold it to everyone else.
We just totally left IT. I mean, let's face it, digitalization will happen.
Yes.
To be clear, it will happen. All over the
Continue.
world, it will happen, it will
Yeah.
continue. It's not going anywhere. Rest
No.
assured, it will be here. But heck, we will solve the climate crisis long before we solve the digitalization.
Yes, most probably, yeah. We will land. Elon Musk and SpaceX will land their damn spacecraft on Mars before we fix this issue.
Yeah. So this is so crazy because, I mean, it's not like we lack the competence in Europe.
No.
We have major competent people. It's not like we lack the know-how. We've done this in Europe before.
Mm.
Europe has been leaders of mobile once upon a time.
Yes.
It was Sweden and Finland that competed. They were called Nokia and Ericsson.
Yeah.
Then the music player search engine and the online bookstore took over.
Yeah. Now, if you had bet on that 30 years ago or 20 years ago, that, to your point, those three services would be dominating the world, you would have been, you would have struck gold and won the lottery for sure. There were some really high odds on that ever happening, but that's where we are. The music player, the bookstore, took over the world completely. And here we are. And in Europe, we just accepted that.
And in Europe, we just leaned back and said, "Oh, how nice!
Yeah,
that
how
innovation
comfy.
is done."
Yeah, comfy. We don't have to do
on
anything.
another continent.
Yeah.
But I mean, we lose our sovereignty.
Mm.
I mean, it's not even that we lose our sovereignty. We voluntarily surrender our sovereignty.
We gave
And
up.
this is a really worrying thing part.
Yeah.
Because as we talked a bit about scenarios, what happens when US and China comes in conflict with each other on the internet? What happens when Russia and US comes in conflict on the internet?
Yeah,
They will start to sink each other's data centers. They will start to attack each other's infrastructure.
Yeah.
And if we as a nation, like in Sweden, is totally dependent 100% on the US infrastructure working and Russia attacks it, who's in deep shit then? Yeah, we.
Yes.
Without being involved in the conflict at all. We will be
Yeah.
collateral damage in the conflict, just to be sure. It will be a great international conflict over the internet. And is that out of the realm thinkable that it might end up so? I don't think so. I mean, it's pretty
It's
high chance.
It's highly likely.
likely.
It's highly likely it will happen, and quite honestly, it's already happening. If you, I mean, just you can read about all the DDoS attacks that goes on, infrastructure that's being just completely shut down, countries who was completely, had no possibility of having electricity or anything, they're just shut down. That is how warfare is being done these days.
And imagine if we have our authority that keeps all our public records on who's alive or not.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
If they put all their information in a US cloud, and the US cloud is attacked with ransomware, when do you cease to exist as a nation?
Exactly.
When we can't produce election ballots, are we even a nation then?
Yeah.
What happens if we can't hold public elections because we don't have any records?
All documentation gone. We can't get a hold of it. Do you even exist as a country then? Or do you actually cease to exist as a country?
How do I prove that I'm a citizen of this nation?
Mm-hmm. And even though this is a very deep discussion and it can sound very harsh and we might sound like alarming people who just wants to scare everyone, that's not the case at all. That's not what we're trying to achieve here. We're just trying to lift the point that it's not the US that has the problem. It's not Russia that has the problem. It's not Asia that has the problem. It's EU who has the problem because we are not producing anything of relevance in the IT industry today at all. We are completely we completely need all these international services for us to function as countries these days.
And that's worrisome, and that's something we need to change. And just to be clear, we should not adapt the EU laws to suit the US laws. No, that's not the point. We should treat digital integrity as a human right. That's absolutely right to do.
Yeah, yeah. It's just either we become the most eastern state of US. That's one option. Or we become the most western part of Asia. It's a second option. Or Russia, for that matter. Because if we don't intend to actually function as a continent, and if we want to continue to be Europe as the continent of Europe, well, then we need to actually be able to supply for the people of this continent as well. Otherwise, there's no point.
And digital software is a pretty important thing to be able to supply. Just saying. Hint.
Yeah.
If you look at the biggest companies today, they are all IT companies. So.
Yes, they are. The richest the companies in the world are IT companies.
And that's the crazy part. We would never in Europe surrender building of airplanes to Chinese and US alone.
No.
Never.
No.
We'll never stop making cars in Europe, just to be clear.
Nope.
Germany wouldn't stop. I bet that if you talk to Volkswagen, they wouldn't say no. It would be a matter of national pride, actually. So no, we wouldn't. Even though we can say and complain that Japan and United States produce cars so very well, why should we make the effort?
Yeah, exactly.
So now start making an effort in the IT and the digitalization. That's the biggest thing. So yeah, we can.
We have the skill, we have the knowledge, we have the know-how. It's just now it's all about effort. And politicians, if you're listening to this, please stop doing research and please stop doing any type of more evaluation. Start acting. We need to act now. It's go time. It should have been go time 12, 15, 20 years ago, but please feel free to act as leaders now, because we need politicians to act as leaders. And yes, being a leader needs you or forces you to make very uncomfortable decisions. That's part of leadership. And we need leaders now. We do not need politicians who are just looking for likes on Twitter. That's not what we need right now. Because it's very unsettling when it is the IT companies of the world who is actually the politicians currently making decisions for you.
The politicians in digitalization are the IT suppliers today. And that's crazy. That's
shouldn't
totally
be that
crazy.
Way. It shouldn't be that way. No. It should be the other way around, right?
That's why we actually vote in governments, in our nations, in democracies. Yes. And they should decide this. They should set this. But now it's left to the suppliers.
It's been completely shifted. So, to wrap this up and to have more encouraging things and more fun things to talk about next time around. This is probably the last time we will talk about this, because I'm quite fed up with this topic now, to be honest with you. Now, this was our rant. Now we said it. I have a hunch we will talk about it again, but I hope we won't. I would like to talk about more constructive things next time around. But let's keep in mind where we are currently. The American suppliers have their laws they need to follow. European suppliers have their laws they need to follow. And just because we do one minute little change, it doesn't change the complete scope of what the suppliers from other continents needs to do in order to be compliant with European data laws. That's where we are at currently. And in Europe, for the love of God, start producing your own IT industry providers who can help us. Because this would have been a non-issue if we had at least one or two solid options that was European.
Yes,
but
if we had solid European options, this would have been a non-issue.
Yeah. So let's say, okay, Boeing claimed, or if Boeing were to stop to sell their airplanes to Europe, Europe would say, well, that sucks, but at least we have Airbus. Airbus, can you fix this? And Airbus can fix this.
If Toyota and Ford said, we will not sell cars in Europe anymore.
We still have European providers.
We still have European options.
Yeah. It would have been a non-issue. This is an issue because we got fat and lazy in the IT industry in Europe and gave up. So we need to get in shape now and start to run and lift and actually activate our brains again, so we start to produce new services.
Because the strange part is, if you look at the top programmers on the IDC list, it's not many Jim Johnsons you see there.
Yep.
From Wisconsin, no.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very international.
Yeah.
And a lot of Europeans.
We have the skills, we have the brains, we have the knowledge. We just... No.
Yeah. So, yeah.
But anyways, that's where we are with that. And end of round for today. But it needs to be... We need to start to talk about this from the right perspective and the right angle. Get the tinfoil hats off now, please. And start working. All right, anyways. If you have opinions regarding this episode, if you want to add something to it, if you think that we are completely wrong, or if you think that you have something else you would add to it, please visit us at citynetwork.eu/podcast, and you can find the information regarding the episode, and you can ask questions, or you can add your input to these discussions. Or if you actually want to participate, which is even better, you can do that as well. Yeah, that's it for today, Kim.
Hubba.